Oh yeah, Mark from Snooker Crazy. I put some pictures up of cues recently that could have done with some maintenance. I thought I'd do a couple of explanations when the pictures come along. They're quite obvious, like this one. This guy's obviously not too keen on changing his tip or worrying about the ferrule or what it might do to the cloth. Obviously something that should be changed a lot earlier. This guy here, I mean, I've never really seen one like that, as bad as that. I don't know whether it's a taper or he just keeps sanding the tip down. Something like this, obviously the tips, if it's not going to be changed that often, which it should be, then you're going to get a curvature at the top of the ferrule. Easily skimmed and easily sorted. Should you ever go it yourself? Yeah, lots of guys do and do very well. Obviously we do this every day, so encourage people to either get it done right or at least bring it to us to get it done right. Does it make a difference if your ferrule's too long? Well, if you fill it with glue and you get an air gap, you're going to get a ping. And this guy had to go at the ferrule himself, unfortunately split the wood. We did fix it, as you can see, but unfortunately lost a little bit of length. It looks like it's been done with a penknife, that one. Obviously we do this day in, day out, so here's a couple of examples of changing it over what we do. Even if it's tapered at the end, we can generally fit a ferrule depending on how much it's tapered and try and put that right. Damage at the end, we can steam out, grain fill it, oil it, or wax it and then fit a ferrule. So we can bring lots of things back to life if we're given the chance before someone else has a go with it. This is an interesting one. I get lots and lots of these. We get so many pull cues in where the guys are breaking with them and either they throw their shoulder over the top and come across, pushing the pressure on the side. The ferrules can be weakened, basically because they're not maintained at the top. But should you be breaking with your normal cue, that's up to you really. We get lots of guys doing that and saying they've been doing it for 30 odd years, it's been fine. But I've even had England players come in here and say, been doing it forever. But obviously I've gone that one step too far. Now I need to either extend the other end of the cue or just stick the ferrule on and have a shorter cue. But should you break, I buy a break cue myself. That's the easiest way around it. And if you're using the same cue that you're playing with, then you're pounding a pressed tip down probably, making it compressed, making it hard, and then you lose a little bit of that touch. So to me it's a bit of a contradiction. I'd seriously think about having a breaking cue. But each to their own. You can see this one must have been quite a bad one, so it's all our choice. Here's a good question. Oil, wax or lacquer sealers or nothing on the cue? Most cues that I see that come in for tips and that have nothing on it. I like oil personally for most cues because it will go inside the cue and soaks in and will actually nourish the cue as it goes. Wax is very, very good. I like a wax and an oil sealer, to be fair. And when I say sealer, I'm on about protecting it from water, ingress of water. Lacquers are good for that. But then again, you get that bad feel on your hand there are other ways you can do it. Sealers are good on there. But as I say, most of them really, to be fair, they come in and they haven't been touched. I'd say the majority of cues, I like to say 90% of the cues come in have not been touched, but it's actually more than that. Does my cue need a grain filler? Yeah, because if you don't, you're going to damage it. This one here, you can see it's got absolutely nothing on it. And if you have nothing on it, you see in the picture, you can see the actual grain itself and you'll get chip out. And then you end up with little holes all over your cue. Obviously, we can do things about that. But clearly, I would say most people coming in don't. You can see on this one, there's a reasonable example of a cue without grain filler and one with grain filler. And if you do it early enough, it should bring it back to round. There's a cue there that's got a complete grain filler on it. When we do it, we'll do the whole shaft all the way down. What I will say about that is the grain fillers really should be a wood type filler because you're trying to make the cue as round as it can be. And when you've got the holes in the grain, you end up with it basically not being round because you're going to wear it down. You can see on that example there, when we've actually rounded it, because it's been worn down and left so long without getting a grain filler, we've then got to make the choice between which bits are going to be high and which bits are going to be low, especially on the bottom of the cue, where you run it over your hand consistently. If you don't grain fill it, then the cue's just going to wear away as you would expect. There's a particularly bad example of one before, and we've had to make the compromise, and it looks good, but it's not quite level. And if you get something like that, doesn't look too bad, but just below the ferrule, it's obviously it's been cleaned and cleaned and cleaned, and then it's not grain filled and then sealed or nourished with any oil, so you're going to get those holes. Grain enhancers are not grain fillers. Most of the grain enhancers I see out there are wrongly named as a grain filler, and they're wax, which your hand will heat that, and even friction would take it out easily. That's a grain enhancer that I use. Normally I do a grain filler, doing a grain enhancer over the top, because sometimes it'll actually darken the shaft. But don't buy a grain enhancer thinking it's going to be a grain filler. It's not going to actually make your cue round again, because you'll wear it out. Yes, we do general repairs. Most of what we do is general repairs. You can see there's a crack in that one. The badge was damaged underneath where he'd cracked it, so we put another badge in it, and you can see the results. So yes, we're doing these most of the time. I mean, whether you come to, we're busy enough as it is, but whether you come to us or not doesn't make too much difference. And what I would say to you, if you don't maintain your cue, you're going to get some of the results like that, and the biggest one being the grain fillers.